Rhythm generally means a movement marked by the regulated succession of strong and weak elements, or of opposite or different conditions. This general meaning of regular recurrence or pattern in time can apply to a wide variety of cyclical natural phenomena having a periodicity or frequency of anything from microseconds to millions of years. In the performance arts, rhythm is the timing of events on a human scale. Of musical sounds and silences, of the steps of a dance, or the meter of spoken language and poetry. Rhythm may also refer to visual presentation, as timed movement through space, and a common language of pattern unites rhythm with geometry. In recent years, rhythm and meter have become an important area of research among music scholars. Recent work in these areas includes books by Maury Yeston, Lerdahl and Ray Jackendoff, Jonathan Kramer, Christopher Hasty, Godfried Toussaint, William Rothstein, and Joel Lester. Anthropology. In his series How Music Works, Howard Goodell presents theories that human rhythm recalls the regularity with which we walk and the heartbeat. Other research suggests that it does not relate to the heartbeat directly, but rather the speed of emotional effect, which also influences heartbeat. Yet other researchers suggest that since certain features of human music are widespread, it is reasonable to suspect that beat-based rhythmic processing has ancient evolutionary roots. Justin London writes that musical meter involves our initial perception as well as subsequent anticipation of a series of beats that we abstract from the rhythm surface of the music as it unfolds in time. The perception and abstraction of rhythmic measure is the foundation of human instinctive musical participation, as when we divide a series of identical clock ticks into tick-tock tick-tock. Some types of parrots can know rhythm. Neurologist Oliver Sacks states that chimpanzees and other animals show no similar appreciation of rhythm, yet posits that human affinity for rhythm is fundamental, so that a person's sense of rhythm cannot be lost. There is not a single report of an animal being trained to tap, peck, or move in synchrony with an auditory beat. Human rhythmic arts are possibly to some extent rooted in courtship ritual. The establishment of a basic beat requires the perception of a regular sequence of distinct short-duration pulses and, as subjective perception of loudness is relative to background noise levels, a pulse must decay to silence before the next occurs if it is to be really distinct. For this reason, the fast transient sounds of percussion instruments lend themselves to the definition of rhythm. Musical cultures that rely upon such instruments may develop multi-layered polyrhythm and simultaneous rhythms in more than one time signature, called polymeter. Such are the cross rhythms of sub-Saharan Africa and the interlocking Kotkan rhythms of the gamelan. For information on rhythm in Indian music, see Tala. For other Asian approaches to rhythm, see rhythm in Persian music, rhythm in Arabian music, and usually Euro rhythm in Turkish music and Dumbek rhythms. Terminology: pulse, beat and measure, see main articles. Pulse, beat. Most music, dance and oral poetry establishes and maintains an underlying metric level, a basic unit of time that may be audible or implied, the pulse or tactus of the mensural level, or beat level, sometimes simply called the beat. This consists of a series of identical yet distinct periodic short-duration stimuli perceived as points in time. The beat pulse is not necessarily the fastest or the slowest component of the rhythm, but the one that is perceived as basic. It has a tempo to which listeners entrain as they tap their foot or dance to a piece of music. It is currently most often designated as a crotchet or quarter note in Western notation. Faster levels are division levels, and slower levels are multiple levels. Rhythms of recurrence arise from the interaction of two levels of motion, the faster providing the pulse and the slower organizing the beats into repetitive groups. Once a metric hierarchy has been established, we, as listeners, will maintain that organization as long as minimal evidence is present. Unit and gesture. A durational pattern that synchronizes with a pulse or pulses on the underlying metric level may be called a rhythmic unit. These may be classified as metric even patterns, such as steady eighth notes, or pulses intrametric confirming patterns, such as dotted eighth 16th note, and swing patterns contrametric non-confirming, or syncopated patterns and extrametric irregular patterns, such as tuplets. A rhythmic gesture is any durational pattern that, in contrast to the rhythmic unit, does not occupy a period of time equivalent to a pulse or pulses on an underlying metric level. It may be described according to its beginning and ending or by the rhythmic units it contains. Beginnings on a strong pulse are thetic, a weak pulse, anacrostic, and those beginning after a rest or tied over note are called initial rest. Endings on a strong pulse are strong, a weak pulse, weak, and those that end on a strong or weak upbeat are upbeat. Alternation and repetition. Rhythm is marked by the regulated succession of opposite elements, the dynamics of the strong and weak beat, the play beat and the inaudible but implied rest beat, the long and short note. As well as perceiving rhythm, we must be able to anticipate it. This depends upon repetition of a pattern that is short enough to memorize. The alternation of the strong and weak beat is fundamental to the ancient language of poetry, dance and music. The common poetic term foot refers, as in dance, to the lifting and tapping of the foot in time. In a similar way, musicians speak of an upbeat and a downbeat and of the on and off beat. These contrasts naturally facilitate a dual hierarchy of rhythm and depend upon repeating patterns of duration, accent and rest, forming a pulse group that corresponds to the poetic foot. Normally such pulse groups are defined by taking the most accented beat as the first and counting the pulses until the next accent. A rhythm that accents another beat and de-emphasizes the downbeat is established or assumed from the melody or from a preceding rhythm is called syncopated rhythm. Normally, even the most complex of meters may be broken down into a chain of duple and triple pulses either by addition or division. According to Pierre Boulez, beat structures beyond 4, in Western music, are simply not natural. Western rhythms are usually arranged with respect to a time signature, partially signifying a meter usually corresponding to measure length and grouped into either 2 or 3 beats, which are called duple meter and triple meter, respectively. If the beats are inconsistently even or odd groups of 2, 3, or 4, it is simple meter, if by admixtures of 2 and 3 it is compound meter. In other systems of music such as Indian classical music, rhythms may be grouped into various number of beats. In some music styles such as Yakshagana even group rhythms into fractional beats. Tempo and duration, see main articles. Duration, tempo, the tempo of the piece is the speed or frequency of the tactus, a measure of how quickly the beat flows. This is often measured in beats per minute. 60 bpm means a speed of 1 beat per second, a frequency of 1 Hz. A rhythmic unit is a durational pattern that has a period equivalent to a pulse or several pulses. The duration of any such unit is inversely related to its tempo. Musical sound may be analyzed on 5 different time scales, which Moravcsik has arranged in order of increasing duration. Supershort, a single cycle of an audible wave, approximately 110,000 second. These, though rhythmic in nature, are not perceived as separate events but as continuous musical pitch. Short, of the order of 1 second. Musical tempo is generally specified in the range 40 to 240 beats per minute. A continuous pulse cannot be perceived as a musical beat if it is faster than 8 €10 per second or slower than 1 per 1.5 €2 seconds. Too fast a beat becomes a drone, too slow a succession of sounds seems unconnected. This time frame roughly corresponds to the human heart rate and to the duration of a single step, syllable or rhythmic gesture. Medium, a per million few seconds, this median durational level defines rhythm in music as it allows the definition of a rhythmic unit, the arrangement of an entire sequence of accented, unaccented and silent or rest pulses into the cells of a measure that may give rise to the briefest intelligible and self-existent musical unit, a motif or figure. This may be further organized, by repetition and variation, into a definite phrase that may characterize an entire genre of music, dance or poetry and that may be regarded as the fundamental formal unit of music. Long, a per million milliseconds or a minute, corresponding to a durational unit that consists of musical phrases which may make up a melody, a formal section, a poetic stanza or a characteristic sequence of dance moves and steps. Thus the temporal regularity of musical organization includes the most elementary levels of musical form. Very long, a per million minutes or many hours, musical compositions or subdivisions of compositions. Curtis Rhodes takes a wider view by distinguishing 9 time scales, this time in order of decreasing duration. The first two, the infinite and the supramusical, encompass natural periodicities of months, years, decades, centuries, and greater, while the last three, the sample and subsample, which take account of digital and electronic rates too brief to be properly recorded or perceived, measured in millionths of seconds, and finally the infinitesimal or infinitely brief, are again in the extra-musical domain. Rhodes' macro level, encompassing overall musical architecture or form, roughly corresponds to Moravec's very long division, while his meso-level, the level of divisions of form including movements, sections, phrases taking seconds or minutes, is likewise similar to Moravec's long category. Rhodes' sound object, a basic unit of musical structure, and a generalization of note. Fraction of a second to several seconds, and his microsound down to the threshold of audible perception. Thousandths to millionths of seconds, are similarly comparable to Moravec's short, and super short levels of duration. Metric structure, see main articles. Meter, bar, meter. The study of rhythm, stress, and pitch in speech is called prosody. It is a topic in linguistics and poetics, where it means the number of lines in a verse, the number of syllables in each line and the arrangement of those syllables as long or short, accented or unaccented. Music inherited the term meter or meter from the terminology of poetry. The metric structure of music includes meter, tempo and all other rhythmic aspects that produce temporal regularity against which the foreground details or durational patterns of the music are projected. The terminology of Western music is notoriously imprecise in this area. Macpherson 1933 preferred to speak of time, and rhythmic shape, Imogen Holst of measured rhythm. Dance music has instantly recognizable patterns of beats built upon a characteristic tempo and measure. The Imperial Society of Teachers of Dancing defines the tango, for example, as to be danced in February 4th time at approximately 66 beats per minute. The basic slow step forwards or backwards, lasting for 1 beat, is called a slow, so that a full right-left step is equal to 1/2/4 measure. The general classifications of metrical rhythm, measured rhythm, and free rhythm may be distinguished. Metrical or divisive rhythm, by far the most common in Western music, calculates each time value as a multiple or fraction of the beat. Normal accents reoccur regularly, providing systematical grouping. Measured rhythm also calculates each time value as a multiple or fraction of a specified time unit, but the accents do not recur regularly within the cycle. Free rhythm is where there is neither, such as in Christian chant, which has a basic pulse but a freer rhythm, like the rhythm of prose compared to that of verse. See free time. Finally, some music, such as some graphically scored works since the 1950s and non-European music such as honky-tonk repertoire for shakuhachi, may be considered a metric. Senza misura is an Italian musical term for without meter, meaning to play without a beat, using time to measure how long it will take to play the bar. Composite rhythm. A composite rhythm is the durations and patterns produced by amalgamating all sounding parts of a musical texture. In music of the common practice period, the composite rhythm usually confirms the meter, often in metric or even note patterns identical to the pulse on a specific metric level. White defines composite rhythm as the resultant overall rhythmic articulation among all the voices of a contrapuntal texture. Rhythm notation. Worldwide there are many different approaches to passing on rhythmic phrases and patterns, as they exist in traditional music, from generation to generation. African music. In the Griot tradition of Africa, everything related to music has been passed on orally. Babatunde Latunji, a Nigerian drummer who lived and worked in the United States, developed a simple series of spoken sounds for teaching the rhythms of the hand drum. He used 6 vocal sounds, goon-doon go-do-pa-ta. There are 3 basic sounds on the drum, but each can be played with either the left or the right hand. This simple system is now used worldwide, particularly by djem players. It is noteworthy that the debate about the appropriateness of staff notation for African music is a subject of particular interest to outsiders, not insiders. African scholars from Kiagambide Douar to Congo have, for the most part, accepted the conventions Euro and limitations Euro of staff notation, and gone on to produce transcriptions in order to inform and make possible a higher level of discussion and debate. John Miller Cheranoff 1979 has argued that West African music is based on tension between rhythms. This tension between rhythms is called polyrhythms and is created by the simultaneous sounding of two or more different rhythms. Often there is a dominant rhythm interacting with an independent competing rhythm, or rhythms. These often oppose or complement each other, and combine freely with the dominant rhythm, creating a rich rhythmic texture not limited to any one set meter or tempo. A set of moral values underpins a full musical system based on repetition of relatively simple patterns that meet at distant cross-rhythmic intervals and call-and-answer schemes. Values also show up in collective utterances such as proverbs or lineages, appear either in phrases that translate as drum talk or in the words of songs. People expect musicians to stimulate participation of all present, notably by reacting to people dancing the music. Appreciation of musicians is related to the effectiveness of their upholding community values. Indian music has also been passed on orally. Tabla players would learn to speak complex rhythm patterns and phrases before attempting to play them. Sheila Chandra, an English pop singer of Indian descent, made performances based on her singing these patterns. In Indian classical music, the tala of a composition is the rhythmic pattern over which the whole piece is structured. Western music, in the 20th century, composers like Igor Stravinsky, bar copyright La Barter Cubed K, Philip Glass, and Steve Reich wrote more rhythmically complex music using odd meters, and techniques such as phasing and additive rhythm. At the same time, modernists such as Olivier Messiaen and his pupils used increased complexity to disrupt the sense of a regular beat, leading eventually to the widespread use of irrational rhythms and new complexity. This use may be explained by a comment of John Cage's where he notes that regular rhythms cause sounds to be heard as a group rather than individually. The irregular rhythms highlight the rapidly changing pitch relationships that would otherwise be subsumed into irrelevant rhythmic groupings. La Monte Young also wrote music in which the sense of a regular beat is absent because the music consists only of long sustained tones. In the 1930s, Henry Cole wrote music involving multiple simultaneous periodic rhythms and collaborated with La Copyright on the Copyright Ra Copyright Min to invent the rhythmicon, the first electronic rhythm machine, in order to perform them. Similarly, Conan Nancaro wrote for the player piano. Use of polyrhythms in American music is generally traced to the influence of black culture through Dixieland and jazz styles. The effect of multiple soloing in these forms, often utilizing cross rhythms, comes directly from the underlying aesthetics of sub-Saharan African music. These complex rhythmic structures have been widely adopted in many current forms of Western popular music. Rhythm and linguistics. In linguistics, rhythm or isochrony is one of the three aspects of prosody, along with stress and intonation. Languages can be categorized according to whether they are syllable-timed or stress-timed. Speakers of syllable-timed languages such as Spanish and Cantonese put roughly equal time on each syllable. In contrast, speakers of stress-timed languages such as English and Mandarin Chinese put roughly equal time lags between stressed syllables, with the timing of the unstressed syllables in between them being adjusted to accommodate the stress timing. Nama 1977 describes three categories of prosodic rules that create rhythmic successions that are additive, cumulative, or countercumulative. Cumulation is associated with closure or relaxation, countercumulation with openness or tension, while additive rhythms are open-ended and repetitive. Richard Middleton points out this method cannot account for syncopation and suggests the concept of transformation. See also, meter, drumming, polyrhythm, cross-rhythm, prosody, timing. Sources, Agayu, Kofi 2003. Representing African Music, Post-Colonial Notes, Queries, Positions. New York, Routledge. Anon. The compact edition of the Oxford English Dictionary 2. Oxford and New York, Oxford University Press, April 30, 1971, 2009. Parrots Have Got Rhythm, Studies Find, world-science.net. Berry, Wallace. Structural Functions in Music. ISBN 0-486-25384-8. Chernoff, John Miller. African Rhythm and African Sensibility, Aesthetic and Social Action in African Musical Idioms. Chicago, The University of Chicago Press. Cooper, Paul. Perspectives in Music Theory, An Historical Analytical Approach. New York, Dodd, Mead. ISBN 0-396-06752-2. Kurvasu Pogorelowski, Andre N.D. Musical Time Theory and a Manifesto. Self-published online. Fitch, W. Tecumseh, and Andrew J. Rosenfeld. Perception and Production of Syncopated Rhythms. Music Perception, Volume 25, Issue 1, pages 43-58. ISSN 0730-7829. Fraisse, P. Les Structures Rhythmiques, Erasme. Paris, 1956. Forney, Christine, and Joseph Mitchell 2007. The Enjoyment of Music, 10th edition. New York, W. W. Norton and Company. ISBN 9780393174236. Hasty, Christopher. Meter is Rhythm. Oxford, Oxford University Press. ISBN 0-19-510066-2. Holst, Imogen. An ABC of Music, a short practical guide to the basic essentials of rudiments, harmony, and form. Oxford and New York, Oxford University Press, 1963. The Imperial Society of Teachers of Dancing. Ballroom Dancing. Sevenoaks, Kent, Hodder and Staunton. New York, David McKay Company. Jirousek, Charlotte. 1995. Rhythm. In an interactive textbook, Ithaca, Cornell University website. Karpinski, Gary S. Oral Skills Acquisition, The Development of Listening, Reading, and Performing Skills in College-Level Musicians. Oxford and New York, Oxford University Press, 2000. ISBN 978-0-19-511785-9. Latham, Alison. 2002. Meter, The Oxford Companion to Music, edited by Alison Latham. Oxford and New York, Oxford University Press. ISBN 0-19-866212-2. Lerdahl, Fred, and Ray Jackendoff 1983. A Generative Theory of Tonal Music. The MIT Press Series on Cognitive Theory and Mental Representation. Cambridge, MIT Press. ISBN 9780262120944. ISBN 978026262622176. ISBN 978026262020499. Lester, Joel. The Rhythms of Tonal Music. Hillsdale, New York, Pendragon Press, 1986. ISBN 978-0-8093-1282-5. Liddell, Henry George, and Robert Scott. A micron I1/4 IOI, in a Greek-English lexicon, revised edition, combining the text of the 9th edition with an extensively revised and expanded supplement. Oxford and New York, Oxford University Press, 1996. Online, Perseus Project, London, Justin. Hearing in Time, Psychological Aspects of Musical Meter. Oxford and New York, Oxford University Press. ISBN 0-19-516081-9. McPherson, Stuart, Form and Music, London, Joseph Williams, 1930. Middleton, Richard. Studying Popular Music. Philadelphia, Open University Press. ISBN 0-335-15275-9. Mython, Stephen. The Singing Neanderthals, The Origins of Music, Language, Mind and Body, London, Weidenfeld and Nicholson. ISBN A0-297-64317-7. Moravcsik, Michael J. Musical Sound, An Introduction to the Physics of Music. ISBN 978-0-306-46710-3. Nama, Eugene. Beyond Schenkerism, The Need for Alternatives in Music Analysis. Chicago and London, University of Chicago Press, 1977. Phoenix Paperback Edition 1980. ISBN 978-0-226-56847-8. ISBN 978-0-226. Patel, Anirudh, Musical Rhythm, Linguistic Rhythm, and Human Evolution, Music Perception 1, 99 104, ISNA 0730-7829. Patel, Anirudh. The Evolutionary Biology of Musical Rhythm, Was Darwin Wrong? PLOS Biol 12 doi, 10.1371/Journal PBIO. 1,001,821. Retrieved March 28, 2014. Rhodes, Curtis. Microsound. MIT. ISBN 0-262-18215-7. Sachs, Oliver. Keeping Time, Rhythm and Movement. Musicophilia, Tales of Music and the Brain. New York and Toronto, Alfred A. North. ISBN A978-1-4000-4081-0. Sando, Greg. A Fine Madness. In the Pleasure of Modernist Music. ISBN 1-58046-143-3. Scholes, Percy. Form, in the Oxford Companion to Music, 6th corrected reprint of the 10th ed., revised and reset, edited by John Owen Ward. London and New York, Oxford University Press. ISBN 0-19-311306-6. Scholes, Percy. Meter, in the Oxford Companion to Music, 6th corrected reprint of the 10th ed., revised and reset, edited by John Owen Ward. London and New York, Oxford University Press. ISBN 0-19-311306-6. Scholes, Percy. Rhythm, in the Oxford Companion to Music, 6th corrected reprint of the 10th ed., revised and reset, edited by John Owen Ward. London and New York, Oxford University Press. ISBN 0-19-311306-6. Template, Toussaint, Toussaint, Godfried T., A Euro-OE The Geometry of Musical Rhythm, A Euro and J. Akiyama, M. Kano, and X. Tan, editors, Proceedings of the Japan Conference on Discrete and Computational Geometry, Volume 3742, Lecture Notes in Computer Science, Springer, Berlin Heidelberg, 2005, ppA 198 to 212. White, John D. The Analysis of Music. ISBN 0-13-033233-X. Weinold, Alan. Rhythm in 20th Century Music. In Aspects of 20th Century Music, edited by Gary Whitleich, Chapter 3. Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, Prentice Hall. ISBN 0-13-049346-5. Woodrow, Herbert. Time Perception. In a Handbook of Experimental Psychology, edited by Stanley Smith Stevens. New York, Wiley, 1951. Yeston, Maury. 1976. The Stratification of Musical Rhythm. New Haven and London, Yale University Press. ISBN 0-300-01884-3. Further reading, Honing, H. Structure and Interpretation of Rhythm and Timing. Zeitschrift für Musiktheorie, Dutch Journal of Music Theory 7, 3, 227 Euro 232. Humble, M. The Development of Rhythmic Organization in Indian Classical Music, M.A. Dissertation, School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London. Lewis, Andrew. Rhythmo Euro, What It Is and How to Improve Your Sense of It. San Francisco, Rhythm Source Press. ISBN 978-0-9754667-0-4. Williams, C.F.A., The Aristoxenian Theory of Musical Rhythm, Cambridge University Press. First edition, 2009. External links. Melody Hound is a query by tapping search that allows users to identify music based on rhythm. Louis Ha. Copyright Bert, A Little Semiotics of Rhythm. Elements of Rhythmology, in Signo.